and perhaps the future of American democracy. That's right, the stakes are unbelievably high, which is precisely the reason why CNN is sending their best guy, John King. Okay? CNN is sending John King down there to take the suit off, roll up his sleeves, and to find out what's going on in the state of Michigan.
You're Chuck Schumer, damn right I'm dangerous.
We don't need lip service. Look, I'm not a celebrity candidate.
El Sayed versus Stevens, and so much more.
Outsider.
I'm gonna be honest, I fucking despise the yokel shtick that Haley Stevens does. Okay, I'll say it. I've been saying it already. I need people to see what I'm seeing. Every time she does the hammed up, like, this is how I talk. This is how Michiganders talk. She's tuning it up. She's tuning it up. I was, at first, before the wave, I had said she was growing on me. Okay, the accent was growing on me. Now I see it as something entirely different. I see it as something unbelievably indecent. Because I realize that I, too, was duped a little bit by the character. Okay? It's the George W. Bush method. George W. Bush is not as much of a yokel as you would think he is, but he always presented himself as such. It's a facade. It's very disingenuous. Her politics are no different than the likes of J.D. Vance. Her politics are no different than the classic corporate Democrat, a bicoastal elite. Okay? But she tries to tune up her frequency to make it seem like, oh, everyone's actually criticizing me because I'm from Michigan. I'm from Michigan. I love Michigan. Oh, I'm just a yokel, don't you know? Okay, that's what she does. Okay, and under that veneer, under that yokel veneer, the lovable Michigander veneer, lies the most toxic, the most repulsive version of American politics, one that places corporate interests above the interests of the working class, one that has lost the state of Michigan twice to a fascist. Okay? I don't like this shtick at all. Here's a moment where she really leans into it like, oh, I'm just a yokel. Oh, these cookies on the internet. Don't you know? These are bi-coastal elitists, don't you know? I'm so glad that the Democrats have their own fucking Sarah Palin, okay?
Okay, some of you have seen, there's those cool kids on the internet. They're doing the cool kid chatter. Some of them might be the coastal elites making...
Oh, they're just attacking me, don't you know? I just want... regular folks, look at me. I'm wearing my jean jacket. Oh, I'm just a Michigander through and through. Devoid of policy, utterly devoid of policy, utterly devoid of a vision in the affirmative, utterly devoid of what she is going to change about the way things are going in Michigan and for Michiganders, and also at the federal level, because the Senate is a federal position regardless. It's all phony bullshit. And the faster we identify this, the easier things will be. We got 10 days remaining. Okay? We don't have a lot of time.
Fun of how I talk.
Not okay.
Not okay. Says my governor. But let's be real. They're making fun of Michigan.
They're making fun of yous. We all talk like this. The amount of people that I have in my community from Michigan that have been losing their fucking minds about how her Uper accent doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever for the Rochester neighborhood that she comes from has been unbelievable. Okay? Yeah. Not okay. It's not okay. Don't you know? This is how we all sound. All right? I'm a leprechaun now. A Michigan leprechaun. This is how we speak in the Midwest. All right? Oh, You bi-coastal elitists don't know how we sound. Me lucky charms. Top of the morning.
They're thinking they're better than us. And what they don't know is I am your voice. And their jokes and their criticism only makes me fight harder. Okay.
All right, don't you know? I'm a Youper. Even though I'm from Rochester, I'll never tell you about my politics. You won't hear about it. Don't ask me a question about Israel, which...
Israel comes to me in my dreams.
That's right.
Some of you...
Anti-establishment is exactly what we need right now.
I'm very frightened by what I...
As a Michigan person, I know several people from Upper, and they hate it the most. We can't tell it's that fake down south. They can. To them, it's like if you were trying to do your Scottish in Scotland, that bad. Yeah. I'm a Youper, and I pray I don't sound like that. Wow, go have a pasty. I mean, the Youpers say she doesn't sound like them. And people from her neighborhood say she definitely doesn't sound like that. But ultimately, every conversation that we're having about her accent is a conversation that we're not having about her financial backers. AIPAC, DTE. And yes, she is actually savvy. She's a lot more savvy than we give her credit. It's odd that the establishment could throw tons and tons of money to try to buy elections, but can't find better candidates than Andrew Cuomo and Haley Stevens. Elliot says something like, no man without convictions can write good prose. And that may have something to do with this problem. The right has convictions, often loopy ones, but they're convictions. The center, nada. Yeah. Yeah. The reason why they can't find good candidates other than like Andrew Cuomo or Haley Stevens is because most people that are willing to take the bag like that, they are going to be unbelievably uncharismatic. They're going to be the ones who need that bag to get into a position of power. They can't win it on their own merits. Okay? That's it. Yeah. Haley Stevens seems to be Matt Dust clocks her ass, by the way. Ah, yes, the cool kids on the internet versus the cool out-of-state billionaires propping up her campaign. Haley Stevens seems to be taking a page from Republican Senator John Kennedy, dramatically paying up folksy regional accent to appear more populist instead of having actual populist policy ideas. The problem for Haley Stevens also is what happens when AIPAC no longer funds her candidacy. Because from the position of AIPAC, there's no difference to Mike Rogers. As a matter of fact, Mike Rogers might even be seen as a more reliable pro-Israel vote than Haley Stevens. So what happens when AIPAC goes, yeah, we're not going to fucking spend the same amount of money to make sure that the Democrat wins here. The Democratic Party is already turning on us. What then? Because she's gotten $54 to $60 million in outside expenditures so far from a litany of different corporations and from AIPAC. AIPAC is responsible for $34 million of that. Okay? More than half. What happens when AIPAC no longer funds her candidacy? If she wins the primary, God forbid. What then? Is she going to carry the Youper accent against Mike Rogers? Is that what's going to work? Yeah, she'll stand around and go, what gives? Especially at that point, many people who already were discouraged by the Israel influence in the previous election are probably going to feel discouraged once again. It's cooked. It's cooked.
I see going on in the Democratic Party.
A Democratic family feud.
You can't keep going in the same direction if you keep losing.
A must-win Senate seat. And a big battleground state.
It's a valid argument, but it will not help Abdul win the primary. First of all, Abdul will win the primary on his ground game, on his integrity, and most importantly, on his policies. Okay? That's how Abdul is going to win the primary. But the reason why I'm bringing this aspect up is because the tool that the Democrats have at their disposal that they weaponize against the left is always electability. My argument is when I bring up electability, I'm not bringing up electability because I think it's like the most important concept. I already know Abdul's electable. The reason why I'm bringing up electability is because it neutralizes the commentary from the Neeratandas of the world, the center-right forces within the Democratic Party that constantly say Abdul's not electable, Abdul's not electable, Abdul's not electable. It's fucking bullshit. Okay? It is Haley Stevens who is not electable, and I need everyone to know that. Which of the two candidates is not electable? The one that actually gets small dollar donations, or the one whose candidacy is entirely propped up by every fucking corporate entity in the country? If Haley Stevens was electable, she would not need $54 million with zero ground game. If Haley Stevens was electable, Gary Peters wouldn't have had to come in the last second. Gretchen Whitmer wouldn't have had to come in and endorse her in the last second. Keep your eyes on the prize, folks. Haley Stevens, in common parlance, is an industry plant. Okay? She is an industry plant style candidate. She has no real value. She has no moral conviction. She will never place Michiganders nor the working class at the heart of her politics. She is bought and sold, a corporate stooge through and through, what is perhaps the worst element of the modern Democratic Party. Okay? She's a goddamn sellout. So she can base boost her yokel shtick till the cows come home. Okay? But at the end of the day, she is a puppeteered by corporate donations. That's number one. Number two, Haley Stevens has a much tougher shot at defeating Mike Rogers. Do I believe in my heart of hearts that Haley Stevens could probably also defeat Mike Rogers? Yes, I do. But the margins of victory for Abdul al-Sayed will be far greater than Haley Stevens. Because Abdul al-Sayed has the fundamentals. He has the on the ground enthusiasm, and there is already plenty of evidence to suggest this. That's why these pivotal endorsements are coming in at the last second from people who said they would not even endorse against any of the candidacies. The reason why they're doing that is not because Abdul is likely to lose. The reason why they're doing that is because they're terrified of Abdul winning. Okay? They're terrified of having a strong advocate for the working class in the Senate. That's it. There's no other reason. Same with Zohran Mamdani. They were not fearful of Zohran Mamdani's inevitable defeat or his inevitable failure if he won the mayoral race and became a bad governor or a bad mayor who would then reflect poorly on the National Democratic Party. It was actually because he would be great. He would be successful as he has been so far. And it would reflect poorly on the National Democratic Party from the eyes of the base that would demand more. That would ask the question, why can't you be like Zohran? Why can't you fight for us? Why can't you accomplish your clear-cut, easily defined agenda, piece by piece? That is what they oppose. Okay? That's it. That's it. There is no great argument for why one must vote for Haley Stevens. She is an unremarkable candidate, a corporate stooge through and through, not very charismatic, doesn't have anything redeemable to her, which is precisely the reason why her candidacy has revolved around attacking Abdul al-Sayed. And we know that the on-the-ground enthusiasm is very real. Why do we know that? Because Abdul al-Sayed has been showcasing internal polls. that show him up sometimes 14% above Haley Stevens. Haley Stevens, on the other hand, has not sent any internal polls. Do you think that the Stevens camp is not conducting internal polls? Of course they are. So why have they refused to reveal the results? Perhaps it's because they know that the internal polls look alarming. That their internal polls that are supposed to be the most positive numbers that Haley Stevens will ever see are actually disastrous for her, where she's underwater. And that's precisely the reason why she's getting these key endorsements to try to carry some weight. Jim Clyburn. Gary Peters, the outbound senator, leaving the seat. And last but not least, Gretchen Whitmer, who is an objectively decently popular governor, nowhere near as popular as she once was, especially as of late. One of those people, is Farmington School Board member Angie Smith. This is what she had to say.
Yeah, so we're here with Angie Smith, and you're from Farmington.
Hi, I'm Angie Smith. I'm from Farmington Public Schools. Top vote getter for Farmington Public School Board. Been on the board 11 years. I am supporting Haley Stevens because she's that candidate. We need someone that can represent all of us, not just one race, but all races. Haley has done great work in Farmington and in Farmington Hills. She knows what she's doing. And anytime you can go to a Democratic convention and be booed and walk from behind a podium and stand there while you're being booed and things thrown at you, that's our person. So let's vote August 4th for Haley Stevens. Thank you.
Thank you. When you say, not just for one, what do you mean by that?
Well,
you feel the other candidate is...
The other candidate seems to be he doesn't work a room. You have to know how to work the room. Don't come out speaking only Arabic. Don't come out with your Arabic music on. Represent everyone.
Boomers, man. Fucking boomers. I swear to God, I try to stay away from generational politics because I think it's reactionary, but every day, every damn day, black, white, Hispanic, doesn't matter. If it's a boomer, they're booming, okay? Every damn motherfucking day of the week. Boomers got to boom, baby. That's it. It's got to be the lead poisoning or something. Again, this is like insane. This is obviously insanely racist. Okay? Like saying that Abdul represents Arabs with their Arab music. I mean, this is, hearing it from someone in Democratic Party politics in the state is extra gross, considering that the school board that she sits on most likely has a decent percentage of Muslim students as well. And one of the things that I always have to remind people is that this is not like anti-Arab, anti-Muslim, Islamophobic sentiment in the black community is not a real thing. Okay? These are establishment boomers that are trying to defend their entrenched power with incredibly racist politics, but it's far from commonplace. I will always repeat myself, but 1/3 of black people in the state of Michigan are Muslim themselves. Okay? 1/3 of African Americans in the state of Michigan are Muslim. Okay? So that's number one. Number two, there are a shit ton of Muslims and Arabs that live alongside the black population in the state as well. And last but not least, number three, poll after poll after poll has consistently shown that black voters, the demographic of black folk in the United States of America, are the most woke in comparison to every other racial demographic. What's really frustrating about this is that you have boomers in entrenched power that are representing some of the most odious aspects of American politics, some of the most toxic versions of American politics. Racism, xenophobia, sometimes white nativist sentiment, ironically enough. And what's frustrating about it is that the voters themselves do not reflect these realities. And yet, the representatives will say, no, this is how we as black folk feel. It's bullshit. No group of individuals are monolithic. But if you were to look at the black voting bloc or black people who are polled consistently in this country, they are far more, quote unquote, woke, far more liberal, far more open-minded, far more progressive than every other demographic in this country. Okay? That's it.
Saying that.
Pat Braxton says that Northwest Detroit has been flooded by mailers showing former President Obama with Stevens. A lot of people are not aware. She says Stevens' support of Israel is wrong.
Saying
as a black woman from an oppressed people in the United States, I can't stand behind that.
that your peers are going to vote for Haley. Is that what you're hearing from your peers?
The community that I live in, Northwest Detroit, O'Hare Park, a lot of people are not aware. And I personally sent 65 flyers, text to people with the difference between the two. And the thing is that Haley Stevens was not endorsed for Barack Obama. However, our community in Northwest Detroit has been flooded with flyers. Every day I get one in my house that shows pictures of her with black people, her at churches. I said, where was she all this other time? We never saw her. And what she did 10 years ago, what is she doing now? Is the question. What has she voted for? And when you look at her record, she's voted for genocide in Palestine, in the Gaza Strip.
This is far closer to the common sentiment of black Americans than anything establishment Democrats say. Okay? It's nasty business. It's just the truth. AIPAC has almost completely captured the Congressional Black Caucus, not in its entirety, of course, but a lot of the older members that want to hold on to their seat of power desperately rely on unlimited donations from AIPAC and other subsidiaries, and that's part of the reason why they have a attitude that is directly opposite to their base of support. Now, it still doesn't matter because as far as a reliable voting bloc goes, the reality of the matter is there's, of course, a lot of established credibility and trust that comes with this entrenched power. That's why Jim Clyburn doesn't have the capacity to do hypnosis to his base of support. He is just a popular figure because he is well liked, and he's trusted because for years and years of sitting in his throne of power in South Carolina, he's been able to fund a lot of initiatives from HBCUs to church groups, and therefore he has a phenomenal relationship with a lot of black leadership all around the country. Okay? That's it. Jim Clyburn is who I'm talking about right now, the kingmaker of the Democratic Party in some respects, who also endorsed Haley Stevens. But to assume that Jim Clyburn speaks for all black Americans would be wrong. He's also 86 years old. Why has the establishment been so late to consolidate around these candidates? These endorsements could have been much more helpful immediately after McMorrow dropped out. Abdul and Hong has really confused me with what they're doing. I don't know what their calculation is. I can't know what's in their heart. I have no idea. But I suspect they know that leaning in to a particular candidate is possibly burning a lot of credibility. Many of them already burned a decent amount with Andrew Cuomo, which Jim Clyburn endorsed over Zohran Mamdani, if you recall. Now, a lot of people don't remember that, luckily for Jim Clyburn. But part of the reason why establishment candidates don't consolidate around certain candidates, certain establishment operatives, is because they don't want to burn their credibility. Because if Abdul wins in the primary, all of a sudden, that says something about how much social and political capital Gretchen Whitmer has, how much social and political capital Jim Clyburn has. This has this changes the calculation for 2028. If you no longer have the same influential capabilities, then you won't get the same level of financial aid. You won't get the same amount of money. People start reconsidering how much power you truly have. South Carolina Dem Party Chair Shane Goldmacher. If Nevada gets elevated over South Carolina, it would be because of their Latino votes. So you would then be telling black voters you matter less than brown voters. And I refuse to believe that our party wants to send any type of message like that. I mean, this stuff sucks. It's so stupid. This is about the whole fight that took place where South Carolina is going to be the first primary. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. By the way, I have some controversial opinions on that, but we'll get to that in a second. This party is so chock full of disingenuous insiders who weaponize the most toxic and phony identity wedges to mete out political factional posturing. The reason Nevada should go before South Carolina is because it's actually in play in the general, why South Carolina should never feature as some major primary. Everyone's just afraid to say it honestly because Clyburn will exert himself to put his own grip on the party above the country's best interests, and nobody wants to be on the record saying something honest when they might have to pretend South Carolina should be a hugely decisive state. Yeah, there are plenty of states that have even more black voters than South Carolina does. Georgia is another one, for example. Why is Georgia not going first? Georgia is Georgia is far more important for Democratic Party politics than South Carolina is. This isn't to say we should let go of South Carolina, okay? Like, we should not give up on the South. I'm not ever going to make that argument. It's actually one of the main criticisms that I have for the Democratic Party. Ironically enough, the South is very black for the Democratic Party's base of support is very black in the South. And that's part of the reason why it's often overlooked. South Carolina is also overlooked, except for the fact that Jim Clyburn gets a lot of money as he plays a pivotal role in the establishment that defends entrenched power. And that's why he gets decent amounts of resources. But then he distributes those resources to his machine, right? It turns into a little fiefdom for Jim Clyburn. That's just how he is operated. And most people don't want to say it out loud because they'll get yelled at because the same like toxic politics plays itself out again. The shallow identity politics of like, oh, you're attacking Jim Clyburn, which means you hate black people. Jim Clyburn is not the singular figure that is representative of all black people. Far from it, as a matter of fact. That's why I keep repeatedly saying black people are not conservative by and large, okay? They are the most progressive demographic of voters. They're the most progressive people in the country, okay? Not only as a voting bloc, but also as an entire demographic. There are a shit ton of polls to show the exact opposite. Black people consistently rate socialism with higher favorability than all other racial groups in the country. Same with progressive values, same with economic populist agenda items. It's ridiculous. This is a major generational divide. The generational divide that ends up benefiting entrenched power in the party, so they just keep browbeating people over the head and claiming cynically that you're racist if you oppose an 86-year-old man, being the kingmaker of the Democratic Party. This was something that I saw from Jim Clyburn that I could not believe. Here it is. For the record, I want to make sure that people understand. This isn't a carte blanche approach to shitting on black political power in this country. and to start, sounding off on Jim Clyburn and all this other shit, because that only forces black political power to close up their ranks, because they've heard this a million times over from not only the Republicans and the racist reactionaries, but racist Democrats too. So it's unfortunately too somber of a reminder for a lot of black political operatives to hear this kind of criticism from a guy that looks like me, especially now that I shaved and look, objectively less Muslim. Okay?
You take from the Biden administration? Like political lessons. Like, was there any political lesson you think there is to take from an administration whose central goal was to stop Donald Trump's return? And here we are.
And he stopped it.
I mean, you stopped it and enabled, I think some would argue.
Well, when the white vote turned out 71% 2 years ago, and the black vote turned out 59%, you tell me whose fault that is.
I guess
only 59% of African Americans went to the polls 2 years ago.
It's tough for me personally to blame black voters for the last election more than it is to blame President Joe Biden.
That's the fact. It wasn't Joe Biden on the ticket. It was Kamala Harris on the ticket.
For 107 days after he decided
to.
The thing that also annoys me is the racism. I'll say this as well. The racism coming from white establishment Democrats that will then say, oh, this is the sage wisdom of an ancient black man. How dare you criticize him? Like, he's just a fucking boomer, man. That's it. He's old. He's old and out of touch. He's 86 years old. There is no sage wisdom here, okay? Shut the fuck up. I hate that, like, Neera Tanden and so many white Democratic Party consultants that are also just as invested in defending entrenched power as Jim Clyburn is, will then turn around and say, like, no, this is the sage wisdom. You're racist for saying that, just so you understand. Okay? It's this weird, like, otherizing of black people when they agree with your position, I guess. When you're like, no, you don't understand. He knows better than everybody else. You're otherizing. You're cynical. You're being fucking racist. It's ridiculous, dude. This take is ridiculous. It's the voters that are at fault. What a ridiculous statement. The fuck do you mean it's the voters that are at fault? This is inherently anti-democracy, okay? There is a democratic process, which means you have to fight like hell to win voters over, okay? That means your agenda sucked. We have to go back to the drawing board. It's so totally ridiculous that Kamala Harris failed to activate the base, the black voting bloc that is the most reliable voter bloc for the Democrats. As a black woman, we have to look back at what failed. We can't just sit there and be like, oh, you just didn't vote hard enough. Fuck you. That's crazy. That's crazy. The fuck do you mean it's the black voters that are at fault? What are you talking about, man?
On the ticket.
I guess I just wanted to see.
It's so funny that Isted laughs in his fucking face, by the way.
Harris on the ticket.
For 107 days after he decided
to on the ticket.
I guess I just wanted to see if there was a clear political lesson you took from that moment and whether you think something applies in this kind
He's like, nope. No lessons to be learned.
Of larger democratic rethink after. But I hear you. You're saying that you think it was a media problem. It was a branding problem. It was a candidate problem?
I didn't say that. The media had nothing to do with that 59%. If that 59% had been 69%, she would have won.
I guess so. Is the argument that black people let Kamala Harris down?
Oh, in many instances, absolutely. If you don't show up to vote, what are you doing?
Is there no
who started
valid
that?
reason why black voters could not have felt heard by the last Democratic election? Is there no valid reason that
Well,
they would have?
There might be. I'd like to know what it is.
No, you don't. No, you don't. As a matter of fact, you definitely don't. That's why you're saying is black people at fault for Kamala Harris losing. Adam John says there's no other sales job, and make no mistake, campaigning in politics is sales, where you get to consistently fail at winning people over and you get to blame them for not buying your wares. Voter scolding has 0% success rate, but it's all the calcified establishment has, always. Kamala Harris was like a cop, pop prison pipeline lady. I could see that being an issue. No, that wasn't the 107 days is valid. The other problem is people are disillusioned. They don't want to fucking vote for either party. There's a generational divide taking place in the black voting population right now that many of the older establishment figures are oblivious to. I've been literally calling this out for the last 2 cycles now. Okay? There is a big generational gap. The black voters who can remember, or are at least like one generation removed from the last time Democrats expended social and political capital to ensure that they have the right to vote, will then go and reliably vote for the Democrats. Younger black voters, on the other hand, do not recall such an experience. All they have known is nothing. Okay? All they have known is harm reduction. All they've known is nothing at all. So for them, for the younger voters, there's no reason to go out and fucking vote because they're like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Okay, one side is like openly racist. The other side is not as racist, but like it doesn't, I still got to go to work every morning. That's it. Because democracy comes down to this fundamental principle. What will you do for me? Or what have you done for me lately? And if the answer is nada, if the answer is nothing, if the answer is just, oh, well, we won power and therefore Republicans didn't get to shit on your life even further, sure, in the end point of that 4-year experience of living under a racist, white supremacist Trump administration, there will be more people that'll be excited to go out and vote. But that's not enough for coalition building. That's not enough to win elections, especially if the opposing side is capable of drawing turnout from an increasingly agitated base. Yeah, he said, this is absolutely crazy. He exonerated the political class and media and blamed black people for Harris losing. I think he's also severely overestimating the political appetite for this lesson as a stick. There are massive generational and class breaks within the broader black electorate, and this reheated lecture isn't winning people over who don't feel like they have any buy-in. Yeah, this was also, there was another thing. It was the Obama method. Obama even did this, which was crazy. Obama did this too when he was like, oh, I guess a lot of black men are just misogynistic. Which is, what a crazy fucking thing to say. What a crazy thing to say. Just fucking using and abusing a voter block as nothing but a reliable vote with no expectations of delivery whatsoever. And also greatly overemphasizing the idea that like black voters are leaving the Democratic Party and like voting for the Republicans when that's not even true. Out of all of if you look at the racial breakdown, once again, black people still overwhelmingly vote for the Democratic Party. Look at fucking white people. Why are we otherizing and singling out black people in this country when we talk about like misogyny, homophobia, shit like that? That stuff pisses me off to no end. There's never a calculus about like the toxic politics of whiteness in the same degree by liberals, especially. Like, we understand that whiteness is the default, so we can look at some white people as being right wing and reactionary, and other white people as not being in that same category. But when it comes to black people, it's all, because it's a minority population, they're all the same. Okay, they're all the same. They're all homophobic. Homophobia is a black person problem. Nobody says homophobia is a white people problem. And it would be ridiculous if we broke it down like that anyway. Yeah, he worked with the Republicans. How James Clyburn protected his district at a cost of black Democrats. I know. He's just very selfish, man. I'm sorry. It's just, that's it. He's very, very selfish. As the rest of these fucking boomers, man. That's it. That's it. He is a goddamn boomer. What do you want? He's 86 years old. And before people say Bernie Sanders is a boomer too, I agree. Bernie is also a boomer. Except Bernie has been trying to build an actual fucking movement that is trying to unseat entrenched power. Jim Clyburn is using his last years on God's green earth to basically solidify his position, to never offer anything to the voters. Oh. Yeah. Democrats love to trot out mummies like Clyburn because it allows them to cloak themselves in the moral authority of the civil rights movement on behalf of Israel and insurance companies. But another huge benefit is they can turn the racism dial all the way up. Yeah, this person, I guess, deleted their fucking take because it was insane. Okay? This lady literally was like saying, don't you feel like Abdul is kind of like a rapist ex-boyfriend? It's like, no, I actually don't feel that way. You just have a new permission structure, I guess, by claiming that this scary Muslim man is like a rapist woman hater. Can you imagine if a Republican leader had worked with Dems to gerrymander against more Republican seats? It's legitimately impossible to imagine. Yeah. All of the elaborate debates about whether Democrats should adopt 5D chess, ultra-pragmatic, heterodox social conservatism, or electorate transforming socialist leadershipism will always be hilarious when this is actually who runs the party. Back in the 1800s, both of these sides would have considered themselves a part of the larger reform bloc and won. But now the so-called pragmatists think that they and only the people they see on their phone are the only ones who exist, so that they just whine and go on Ezra Klein and lose. Yeah. Yeah, this is what Blue MAGA was doing. Is it just me, or is Abdul El-Sayed like an abusive boyfriend who gets far more unpredictable and dangerous when he realizes you might be leaving him? If he wins, I have a feeling that there would be some skeletons revealed. As for now, it's clear that Abdul El-Sayed is just not a fan of treating women with respect, which is a major reason why he needs to lose. Kamala was an intelligent, experienced, professional black woman, but she was average as fuck. The hardest thing is getting some older black aunties and unks to accept that we cannot settle for average with any politician, and especially not one that supported a genocide. It's frustrating for them that subpar average white man can win, but not a qualified black woman. But it's not the relevant issue at hand with Kamala. It's the genocide. I mean, it's the genocide, but it's also the lack of charisma as well. The lack of the lack of change. Like, Kamala Harris anchored herself around a dying candidate, like literally a dying campaign, the Joe Biden reelection campaign that died. And she was supposed to be the replacement. And instead of charting a different path forward, she leaned into it, which was fucking ridiculous. If you're going to be the young, vibrant, black American alternative to Joe Biden, you have to show that. Okay? You have to show that. If you run around and say, no, I'm just like the fucking old guy who you guys opposed so much that I, in this totally unique set of circumstances, became the actual presidential nominee, you can't anchor yourself with that dead weight around your neck and then expect to win. It's funny to complain about mediocre white men and have the entire Democratic establishment go to war for Biden's nomination. The definition of a mediocre white man, I agree. But that mediocre white man won. Okay? Here's another example of an accomplished white woman, Hillary Rodham Clinton. She had the pedigree. She had the endorsements. She had the media backing. She was the reasonable candidate as opposed to the mania represented by Donald Trump. If you simply look at that, don't say barf. It's just on paper. Who do you think would be a better president on paper, guys? Hillary Rodham fucking Clinton, who was the Secretary of State, or Donald Trump, who was a rapist real estate developer? What are we talking about? Of course, on paper, if you look at the fucking resumes of Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, yes, Hillary Clinton was clearly the better option. But people don't make those decisions in the same way that the establishment Democrats want them to. Okay? Same goes for Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris was a far more accomplished stateswoman. Okay? She had the background. She had the prosecutorial background. She had a brief stint in the Senate. Doesn't really count too much, but she was vice president, right? She was accomplished. But it doesn't matter. Being accomplished is not going to carry you across the finish line. When you call her young, you insult the actual young. Harris is 61. Yes, that is young, unfortunately, for modern American politics, modern American politicians. She didn't have a good policy platform. She didn't have a lot of charisma. And she was all over the place. That's partially because she is a little bit of a chameleon. She ran in 2019 as like another Bernie-crat style candidate that none of the Bernie-crats actually believed in because it was fake. Exactly. On paper, Kamala was far superior to Trump and many other candidates, but she was average in every other way, so it wasn't enough, and especially when you tack on the weight of being pro-genocide. That was my whole point. Yeah. And then she pivoted to the right as well, which was a disaster. Because why would you go for the diet soda when you can get the full strength soda from the Republicans? Adam Johnson responds to Jeb Fain, House Majority, former Dem spokesperson, DCCC, classic establishment Democrat. It's a satirical post. This is about the Abdul al-Sayed fake post. Abdul al-Sayed handshake Mike Rogers. Florida Republican Mike Rogers endorses Abdul for Senate. She made like a fake campaign poster using the Abdul font, duping voters into believing that the Republican opposition had endorsed Abdul al-Sayed. Nate Bluen said, AES, Abdul al-Sayed should file a cease and desist or something. Ripping off the campaign branding is problematic and misleading. Jeb Fain said it's a satirical post mocking al-Sayed because Mike Rogers told his own donors that he'd rather run against. All the dramatic freakouts these leftists have over normal campaign tactics. It's almost like they never experienced a competitive general election before. Just going to keep harping on this, but this is factually false. Rogers never told his donors he'd rather run against al-Sayed. He was specifically asked about a strategy against al-Sayed and projected confidence he would win, which is what one does when talking with donors. Without knowing how he handicapped the race against Stevens, this out-of-context quote is utterly meaningless. This is an outright lie, a falsehood. At no point in any of the donor call clips does he express a preference for either candidate whatsoever. Jeb Fain then responds with, sure, man, keep pretending it's some mystery who Republicans would rather run against. If you spent any of the last decade in reality, pretty obvious it's the far-left Bernie bro who's on record backing defund the police and campaigns with America Deserve 9/11 podcaster. Right, so this is just an assertion, not evidence. To make claims, one needs evidence. al-Sayed has 10,000 plus highly motivated volunteers. Stevens has hundreds and is propped up by $30 million in AIPAC money that will disappear the second she wins the nom. I'd much rather run against the latter. Finding different ways to throw out scary Muslim defund Hassan Piker is not an argument and is not evidence. I'm sure Rogers sees strengths and weaknesses in both candidates, and most important of all, he has given zero indication who he'd prefer. I can't believe these guys still are repeating the whole like, oh, dude, it's going to be really bad that Abdul ran with Hassan Piker. people in Michigan do not know who the fuck I am.
guys.
Okay? Or the ones that do know who the fuck I am are already door knocking for Abdul's campaign. You know, some of which are in that 10,000 door knockers volunteer army that he has. Okay? If the Democratic position in the general is, we want to give you health care, we want to end the endless militarism, we want to give you housing. And the Republican position is, this guy fucking hung out with American podcaster Hassan Piker. The Republicans are coming in, diving headfirst into a losing argument. You know who did that back in the day? The fucking Democrats did. Oh my God, you're going on the Joe Rogan Experience. Oh my God, don't you know Joe Rogan is a scary podcaster? And you know what happened? You know what happened in the aftermath of that? Republicans won. And Joe Rogan became more popular than ever before. So shut the fuck up. The Democrats have trotted this idiotic narrative out every single time. They've been like, oh, dude, fucking Zoran Mamdani loves 9/11 and loves the podcaster that loves 9/11. It didn't fucking work. Time and time again, this has been trotted out over and over again, deployed over and over again. It has been a failed message. Why is it a failed message? Simple. Because number one, most Americans don't know who the fuck I am. Okay? They don't know. Why would they know? Why should they know? I'm a Twitch streamer. Okay? And the ones that do either hate me or love me. A lot more who love me than hate me. Okay? Now, after the unlimited barrage of attack ads from Fox News, that number might change because, there's a lot of Republicans who despise me for sure. But those guys weren't voting for Abdul anyway. Okay? The other thing is, I am utterly immaterial in the grand scheme of things. Politics are about what you can do for your voters, what you can do for your constituents. Okay? It is incredibly fucking stupid to try to turn the political rat race into anything but that, to try to turn that into this silly ass, like, which podcast did he appear with? Which guy did he campaign with? Do you disavow the comments? Do you disavow the comments of this guy who endorsed you? This game does not need to be played. You know who doesn't play this game? Donald Trump. That's why he's partially very successful. So if Democrats actually go, oh my God, we're so sorry we hung out with Hassan Piker, how dare we do such a disastrous thing, then yeah, you'll allow Republicans to win. But if you say, what the fuck are you talking about? This guy's a goddamn Twitch streamer. He has a big army of fucking door knockers. Yeah, I'm going to go on his platform. I'm going to try to win over the disillusioned voters that are worried about the future of America because they're American citizens and they're my constituents too. I'm talking to everybody. I'm talking to Republicans as well. As long as you say that and you stand by your positions and try to reframe the conversation back to Medicare for all, you're good. Your opposition will automatically look silly for constantly trying to frame the conversation around minutia, whether it be transgender athletes, whether it be something even dumber than trying to position people against transgender athletes, which would be a fucking Twitch streamer, right? Anyway, here's Matty Iglesias, Egg Boy on Pod Johns, complaining that moderate Democrats don't have any enthusiasm on their side and won't actually and don't do enough to generate enthusiasm for their moderate candidates and their moderate policies.
There's a group of moderate Democrats, but they need to give some voice to, like, what do we think? Who are we? Why are we the good people? And I give incredible credit to Bernie Sanders, who has been tireless about trying to promote politicians who he likes. And I hear so many other Democrats, and they're mad that Bernie is promoting these people and that the people who they like aren't getting promoted. But it's like, well, who's going to promote them other than you?
Yeah, that's what actually bothers me a lot, is that they look at the insurgent candidates on the left and sort of the progressive outsiders with, like, umbrage. It's basically that's like the main feeling. Like, how dare you? And my candidate works really hard and has been just doing. This is sort of like the Haley Stevens stuff has gotten better. I think the argument that people are making for her, but originally it was like, well, she's been there just working hard, and give her credit for being there and working hard. And it's like, okay, I'm sure that's true if you know her, but like voters don't know that, and so they're going to need a different kind of story there.
Well, and also I know so many Democrats who want her to win this primary, but who don't want to fly to Michigan and campaign with her because it'll be embarrassing if they stand with her and she loses. But it'll be embarrassing to Bernie if Abdul loses. And like, he has he's doing the work, right?
Yeah.
And there's no alternative to that in politics. And that's like part of my message to the more moderate Democrats out there is like, don't just give up hope, but also don't just assume that we can keep endlessly staving off the left.
Yeah, he's stuck between party borders now. Stuck between borders, Norway and India, but also stuck between party border, stuck between ideological border. This is his life, man. At least he got to meet Erling Haaland. That was cool. That was cool. When he met Erling Haaland, I was like, good on him, you know?
And, pulling more rabbits out of the hat. Like, somebody's got to run a campaign. Somebody's got to make the case. You've got to actually, like, articulate some daring positions on the issues. And if people yell at you, you have to explain why they're wrong. And, like, you got to go on Crooked, and you probably got to go on Hassan Piker and, do some interviews with people who don't agree with you and stand your ground. And that's because that's how it's always been. There's no like magic trick. Like,
it's so funny because he's just straight up describing campaigning. Like, the attitude from establishment Democrats is, no, of course I have to be in this position. What the fuck are you talking about? This was ordained to me by God. This position was given to me by God. Are you out of your dang mind? How dare you oppose my power? This is my fucking fiefdom. And that's not how politics works, man. We don't live in that kind of universe. Maybe you want to live in that kind of universe, but that's not the universe we live in. We still have some semblance of theoretical democracy here. And therefore, you just have to do shit that you don't want to do. You have to present your ideas. You have to defend those ideas. And you have to win. It's just so fucking annoying. Let's not forget what Maddie thinks are toxic views of the left. Yeah, I know. False. Leftists like Plattner and Abdul said are less woke than mainstream Dems and have no electability penalty. True. The most toxic views, affirmative action, deference to teachers' unions, gender weirdness are shared by establishment and the left, so electability gap is modest. Dude, Matt Iglesias is so crazy because he just says the most toxic views are affirmative action and deference to teachers' unions. Teachers' unions are literally some of the most popular institutions in this fucking country. What the fuck are you talking about, man? Like, gender weirdness gets into a territory where you're in the wrong, but at least you can make an argument that it's like politically toxic nowadays, partially because the Democrats just never really defended it, partially because the Democrats don't have like a platform that people want to join for certain things that they might get, and therefore the only platform that they hear about is oppositional framing on gender-related issues, right? And the opposition frames you as like silly and hyper focused or invested in the genitals of transgender people, that you want to give everybody a bottom surgery or something. Like, it sucks, but that is what has dominated discourse in this country. And that's partially, once again, the fault of the Democrats. Okay. It is kind of wild that he's openly saying how reactionary he is, though. Even the centrists are like, what's your evidence for teachers' unions being politically toxic? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this was also crazy. He posted this like strike on Karg Island AI video. Donald Trump did, which we'll be getting to in a second with our situation monitoring. But here, let's watch the Michigan Civil War.
Honestly, don't know right now.
Do you think it's hypocritical to support defund ICE but not police? Great question. No. I mean, if you were to ask me, I'm in favor of taking away resources from police departments that have inflated budgets and one, forcing accountability upon the police departments, and two, making them actually do the work of like solving crimes and things of that nature. But the reason why I don't think it's hypocritical to support the abolition of ICE and not like the abolition of police, for example, is because policing as an institution has existed in one way, shape, or form for far longer than ICE has. ICE has been around for 23 years. It's a paperwork violation for the most part. Policing as an institution can at the very least be pointed to dealing with, you know, very emotional cases, like very violent cases like rape, pedophilia, and the like. Whereas with ICE, they try to masquerade this as a law enforcement agency that is tasked with dealing with pedophiles. But the reality of the matter is, one, it's 23 years old at this point, or not 23 years old, sorry, 23 years old at this point. And two, the previous formation of ICE was INS, which once again, for the most part, like its law enforcement mechanism is about paperwork violations, right? Also, policing as an institution is like unfathomably popular, unfortunately, amongst Americans, and that's a whole different story to get into. But yeah, but that's the reason. Those are some of the reasons why I don't think it's hypocritical.
A packed church basement on a steamy summer evening.
All right, friends, money out of?
The insurgent keeps...
Also, if you're asking me like about defunding the police, I'm in favor of it. So I don't know why. I've been a long advocate for I don't say defund the police, even though I defended it, and we should have explained it better instead of attacking it immediately, which many people did. And I think if there was plenty of defense of what defunding the police was at the time, then people would have a very different approach to it. And I am in favor of taking away some of these exhaustive resources that we've given. We should demilitarize the American police departments 100%. And not only that, but we should also use some of those resources to tackle crime at the root cause of the issue, which is, once again, socioeconomic factors, right? It's unfortunately a lost cause at this point, at least for the time being, because Americans were so unbelievably polarized against this, because many business owners freaked the fuck out. The Democratic Party in its entirety freaked the fuck out on the movement. And they positioned themselves in this like very reactionary place from the start against defund the police. And that's part of the reason why it's an objectively unpopular slogan now, even if it actually makes sense when you explain it to people. And the greatest evidence I can give you is Zohran Mamdani saying he's going to keep the police the same head count, and he's going to try to figure out a way to cut down on overtime and focus on building some of the city resources, which again, that is what defund the police was, right? So that's what defunding is. Most people don't understand that. The problem is, While most people find it to be an agreeable position, if you explain it to them, that's not how this discourse works. If every outlet is saying, oh, you want to fucking kill cops, you want to throw cops in prison, you want to abolish the policing, you want rapists to roam the streets freely, which they currently do, ironically enough, with the current funded police departments, that becomes a lost cause, a lost argument, unfortunately, especially when it's channeled by even Democrats, right? Even supposed allies. What I will say about this is that I'm in favor of making policing work for the people rather than protect and serve the interests of capital, because I also understand fundamentally, as many like police abolitionists do as well, even the most rugged anarchists will tell you that there has to be something that takes the place of policing, even if it's like a democratically organized system. So, you know, I always say I just want them to do their fucking jobs, because cops don't do their jobs at all. It's very frustrating to me. They basically live in Nordic style social democracy in the United States of America, and they're exurbs. They drive around in their fucking lifted F-150 pickup trucks. They come into the cities and brutalize teenagers. That is when they're even fucked off to do their jobs at all, if they're asked enough to do their jobs. For the most part, they don't do shit. They collect paycheck, overtime pay, hazard pay, and the like. They have unfathomably strong unions. It sucks. It's genuinely one of the, I guess, cushiest jobs you could have. You're this like unaccountable mass assaulter who doesn't ever have to do anything. And I believe that the role of policing in the modern world is a very important one. Okay? A very, very important one. Protecting the presence of law and order with your presence, even if their current presence is lawlessness and disorder, unfortunately. And also refusing to do your fucking job, like your very important job of, you know, solving crimes. That's what my anger and resentment stems from about modern policing and policing in general. What is this? Sadly, there's another clip with what? I have no idea what you're talking about. What? Harris economic policies will give some money to some people in some situations. I was legit worried they'd hang Platinum over Bernie, but he kept pushing and everyone did. Another clip of what? They'll just lie. Okay, I don't know who you're talking to.
That one again. Money out of politics. Money in your pocket. Medicare for all.
And he pulls no punches.
8-pack shouldn't be able to dominate our politics. Corporations shouldn't be able to dominate our politics. Chuck Schumer should no longer be Senate leader for anything.
Abdul El-Sayed is 41, the son of Egyptian immigrants, the former Wayne County health director.
You know, I don't pay my taxes thinking, man, I can't wait for Israel to get another tank.
Bro, they're going to cut it and go, he doesn't pay his taxes. We got him. They're going to clip chimp him.
I can't wait for Egypt to...
Zoran also froze budget increases, which is technically a defunding as well, since the budget has to grow to meet raises, inflation, etc. By not increasing budgets, you're technically defunding. Yes.
Get another set of bombs.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Another church meeting hall, also just across the Detroit city line.
This is the best of Michigan.
Haley Stevens is 43, in her 4th term in Congress. Before that, worked for President Obama's Auto Industry Task Force.
The work that I was a part of when it mattered. You know, the work that we cannot forget.
No talk of revolution here. It is, yes, old school.
Big old rallies are nice things. I want to see who's in the neighborhood. I want to see who has pastor on speed dial, mayor on speed dial.
Promises to take on Trump, tax the rich, lower health care costs, but also talk that sometimes compromise brings progress. And a reminder, this is Purple, Michigan. Stevens flipped a Republican-held seat to get to Congress.
I became the first...
Okay, CNN. Jesus Christ, dude. Jesus Christ.
pro-labor, pro-power of the people Democrat since before the moon landing to hold that seat.
The roots of this fight don't go back quite that far. Michigan had a huge role in the first round of this insurgent versus establishment battle in the Democratic Party. That was a decade ago. The fight card. Right now, and a giant defining issue in this race. Walter Robinson Jr. lives in neighboring Dearborn Heights. Its population, 40% Arab. Affordability is by far Robinson's top issue. He is voting El Sayed because he's a union guy, and he trusts the United Auto Workers endorsement process.
There's a lot of people that feel like that the union shouldn't tell them what to do or how to vote. But like I said, connecting the ballot box to your bread box is vitally important.
Robinson doesn't agree with El Sayed on everything, but he compares his constant attacks on the Democratic establishment to Donald Trump's insurgent takeover of the GOP a decade ago.
You have to do something different, and this might just be enough just to shake things up.
What's your favorite spot you've visited in Michigan so far?
Jade Gray is 22, just a year out of college, but she's worked as a Democratic organizer for 5 years and helped her first campaign at age 12 in 2016.
I think we're seeing two paths emerge for the Democratic Party, and this is going to be one of a few examples of where we're really headed.
Gray is from northern Michigan, Trump country. She predicts El Sayed will do well in the primary there.
We are seeing the most engagement from Democrats than we've ever seen before in that area. Maybe this progressive mindset, this Medicare for all, money out of politics, isn't so radical and could work for us.
Gray takes El Sayed's side of the Israel divide.
One is an AIPAC-backed candidate who is, unapologetically pro "Thank you, Israel," and Abdul is against that.
Very critical of Netanyahu.
John, what the fuck? Brother, give me a fucking break, dude. Oh my God, dude. Oh my God, brother. What the fuck? Dude, this feedback is unbelievable. It's like, well, Haley Stevens hates Benjamin Netanyahu. I mean, come on. Are you there to poll the people? Are you there to stump for Haley Stevens? Dog, she got $34 million from AIPAC. It doesn't matter what she's saying about Benjamin Netanyahu. What the fuck are you talking about? It's fake. It's fake. It's fake. Can we weigh things evenly? What do you think matters more with her decision making when it comes to Israel? $34 million from the Israel lobby, or what she once said about Benjamin Netanyahu when she's also said this?
Israel comes to me in my dreams.
It's so fucking stupid.
Right, she's critical of Netanyahu. I appreciate that, but who she's funded by, I don't think walks that walk. I like seeing a candidate who's, unapologetically anti-Zionist.
Let's go.
We got it going.
Rob Lippett is more than patient with a pickleball novice. And he is more than anxious about this primary.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Creating litmus tests, suggesting that Israel shouldn't exist, or being unwilling, as al-Sayed is.
Dude, John King, ZNN. Oh my fucking lordy lord. Bro went to the pickleball court in this dude's backyard to talk about how fucking anxious this guy is. That scary Muslim man could potentially win the election. Will he push back on Mr. Pickle? Will you push back on Mr. Pickle? I want to hear if John King has a similar approach to this.
To affirm the idea that Israel has a right to exist as a state doesn't move us closer to peace.
Lippett sees al-Sayed as part of a broader, troubling...
Wait, Johnny baby, why didn't you fucking be like, well, Abdul al-Sayed has talked almost entirely about AIPAC funding. Does that not concern you? Really? No response. No response to Mr. Pickle. No response to Mr. Pickle. No pushback to Mr. Pickle. Why is Mr. Pickle getting zero pushback? Yeah, 2 UAW Abdul supporters and a millionaire Stevens supporter.
Democratic shift.
The socialist drift of the party and the hardline and somewhat radical positions that they take are not good for the state or good for the country.
He loathes Trump and wants a Democratic Senate. But Lippett says he and many other Jewish voters will face a painful choice if al-Sayed wins the primary.
Oh, shut the fuck up, dude. This is... Oh, God, I hate this shit so much, dude. I hate it so much. It's not a fucking painful choice at all, man. You either hate fascism and you hate it unconditionally, or you care about fascism in the country only to a certain degree, as long as it still allows fascism to take place in Israel. Okay? That's it.
I think there are a lot of people that won't vote for al-Sayed.
Are you one of them?
Probably. I don't feel like
Why is this shit never treated like Bernard supporters, by the way? Oh, you're saying you don't want to vote for blue no matter who? How come if you're pro-Israel, you get to be as critical as you want of the Democratic Party's choice? If your guy or your gal, your Israel firster, doesn't get the fucking nominee, you're not going to vote for Abdul al-Sayed. You're going to allow Republican fascism to take shape in this country. How is this? Why is it that this is always just the Bernard brothers whose votes are taken for fucking granted? But when it comes to people who actually destroy the vote blue no matter who, I'm going to withhold my vote. I'm going to withhold my support in the general if the scary Muslim wins, is not treated with the same racism, is not treated with the same critical lens that this is unbelievably fucking racist. Yeah, it's crazy how quickly the center killed vote blue no matter who as soon as they started losing primaries. Yeah, it's gone. It's gone now. It's over.
the Democratic Party is a safe space.
Traverse City is along the spectacular Lake Michigan, population 16,000. Northern Michigan is mostly rural, in every way a long way from Detroit and its suburbs. Ashley Ayala lives in a town of 1,500 people, works for a nonprofit conservation group.
There we go.
These goats working one section at a time to clear rural land.
What do you want from the Democratic Party? What's missing?
Oh.
That's an anti data center voter right there. I'm clocking it. Don't know where this goes. Don't even care what she says. I know him when I see him. Okay? That right there, no matter what she says to John King, no matter what made it to the editing floor, what made it out of the editing floor, I know for a fact that's an anti-data center voter. Like, that's her primary focus.
I mean, there's a list of things. Where do I start?
We got all day.
Oh, diabetic healthcare.
Healthcare and childcare costs are her biggest stresses, and she likes what she hears from El Sayed there. But
Yep.
Stevens has appeal too. Ayala thinks her experience might help get things done. Sometimes thinks her more moderate views might help in November.
Oh my God.
Especially in rural areas like this.
When it comes down to pen to paper, it'll end up being who has a better chance at winning.
Yes, Abdul El Sayed is that guy. Abdul El Sayed is that guy. Haley Stevens is not that gal. Consultant brain, by the way. Consultant brain once again. Well, I really like Abdul El Sayed, but what if other people don't? Well, how about we just vote for people we like going forward? How about we do that? Because if you like something about him, other people are probably going to like the same things about him. It's just that you have been broken down. Okay? You have been broken down and intellectually brutalized for so many years. You've been duped into believing that other people don't agree with some of the qualities that you like about a particular candidate. They do. Okay? They do. That's why Abdul has 10,000 volunteers and Haley Stevens has 80. Not 80,000, just 80. Okay?
You're not sure who that is right now.
I don't. I have no clue.
Do you see yourself as kind of a referee, one of the referees, the voters, in kind of a Democratic civil war or family feud?
I've always been a referee my entire life. Yeah.
Ayala knows it's a giant choice for Michigan and beyond. And there's just a bit more time to chew it over. John King, CNN, Maple City, Michigan.
Yeah, debate night tomorrow, by the way. Debate night tomorrow. Meanwhile, Donald Trump. All right, we're getting to finally the thing that all of you have been waiting for excitedly. Okay? Situation monitoring. But before we do that, here's Adam Carlson's take. Michigan is a must-win race if Democrats want to take back the majority, stall Trump's agenda, and block his judicial nominees during his final 2 years in office, and build towards a Democratic trifecta in 2029. If you are a prominent Democrat and you refuse to back the nominee just because your preferred candidate lost in the primary, then it's abundantly clear that you care more about your petty grievances than actually helping the people who are suffering the most in this country under the Trump regime. It means you are myopic, selfish, and unserious. This applies to El Sayed supporters if Stephen wins the primary. This applies to Stephen supporters if El Sayed wins the primary. There is truth to that. Ultimately, you can't expect people to fucking vote. I say this about the people who have postured vote blue no matter who, as long as the Democrats also maintain a pro-Israel attitude, and now they're changing their calculation when there are some Democrats who are not pro-Israel unconditionally. Okay? Ultimately, you got to win over those voters. You got to win over those voters. If you are a Democrat, though, if you are a prominent Democratic Party politician saying this shit, well, then you're fucked. You should be fucked. Bernie has never done this. Okay? Bernie's never done this. And at most, the one Democrat who had every right to do this for Kamala did not speak out. And that was Rashida Tlaib. As a Palestinian woman, she watched her people get slaughtered by the administration whose party she was a part of. And she just sat it out. She didn't say anything, right? She was pro uncommitted movement, which is, I obviously respect that in the primaries. And she didn't say anything in the general. I think that's pretty valid. What is this? The cracks in the grift are showing. Butt face fanny slammer. 20,558 people are not doing enough to help the cause while watching the stream. If any of us really care, we close the stream and go out and do something. Grift alert. Just trying to keep it real, mate. You're right. Famously, we don't do anything about making necessary changes in the world of American politics. Thank you for calling us out, chatter. If we weren't doing shit, Fox News wouldn't be welcome. If we weren't doing shit, Fox News would be complaining nonstop. Y'all humping on the tour? What is this? Am I insane, or is the dry humping fans on stage trend so fucking weird? I told you Alfira and lie was a bad idea. Yeah, we're dry humping. Yeah. You could say that about a lot of like online political communities, but this is probably the one community you can't really say that about. But I'll chalk that up to you just simply didn't know. Chatter, who had this complaint. I'm just going to assume that you didn't know. All right. Let's get to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is very upset. Situation monitoring the